好，各位議員，咁我哋而家立法會人力事務委員會嘅會議呢，係而家正式開始。咁今日呢，就大家睇到呢係有兩個議程嘅嚇，亦都係有團體代表嚟發表意見。咁或者而家我哋請咗政府代表同埋團體代表嚟先啦。咁佢哋入緊嚟嘅時候呢，我哋就講下而家第一個議程呢，就確認通過先前會議嘅紀要，就係2013年。
Let's confirm the minutes of the previous meeting. Unless you have any proposed amendments, and let's confirm the minutes. So the minutes are still confirmed. Item 2, information papers issued since the last meeting. There was a letter dated 22nd of February 2013 from the Elderly Services Association of Hong Kong requesting the panel to hold a joint meeting with the Welfare Services Panel to receive views from deputations on manpower situation in residential care homes for the elderly. They wrote to the Welfare Services Panel. We will liaise with the panel in this regard. The second one is a letter dated the 27th of February 2013 from Hong Kong Evergreen Association of the Elderly, requesting a joint meeting with the Welfare Services Panel. So those were the information papers issued since the last meeting. I will be liaising with the WSP in this regard. Date of next meeting and items for discussion. I'd like to welcome government representatives. The next meeting is scheduled for the 16th of April at 4:30. The item proposed for discussion is the major findings of the 2012 annual earnings and hours survey. Normally at the second quarter of each year there would be such a survey, and at the next meeting on the 16th of April, they will be bringing us up to date. The second item is the safety of the construction industry. The administration will be reporting to us all the latest measures regarding work safety of the construction trade. Anything else I'd like to bring up for the next meeting? If not, we will have those two items on the agenda for the next meeting. Next, item 4, continuous contract requirement under employment ordinance. Please refer to CB 2/285/11 to 12 bracket 1. On the this is the paper provided for the panel on the 17th of November 2011. This is a recycled paper. The government is responding to the environmental cause. The second paper is background brief prepared by the Secretariat, paper 774/12 to 13 bracket 03. We're here to listen to the views of the deputations. According to the administration, after consulting the LAB, by the middle part of this year there would be consultation on the panel regarding continuous contract of employment. So we're here to listen to the deputations. We've got 19 deputations and they're filing into the conference room right now.
咁我哋請啲團體入嚟，咁我哋就唔或者我唔邀請政府介紹。
Perhaps we don't need any introduction by the administration, because we're here to listen to the views of the deputations, and thereafter the administration will be invited to respond.
咁我哋歡迎團體。
I'd like to welcome the 19 deputations. Just a reminder that Channel 0 is for the floor, number 1 for Cantonese, and number 2 is for English. When you take the floor to speak, please stick to one single language to facilitate simultaneous interpretation. Please do not use cocktail language. We will be inviting the deputations to take the floor to speak one by one. Each will be restricted to 3 minutes. And again, just a reminder that what you say will not be protected by the Electoral Powers and Privileges Ordinance. The submissions that you produce will fall outside the scope of the ordinance. I will be inviting the deputations to speak, and then I throw the floor open for questions. The first one is Mr. Wong Yun Tat, Kwai Ching District Council Member. Chairman, 3 years ago, the former Chief Executive, 3 minutes, please. Please. Mr. Donald Tsang said in his policy address that information will be gathered regarding non-contract, continuous contractor workers, and with a view to reviewing the definition of continuous contract of employment. Under the ordinance, the short-term contract is allowed to employ workers to minimize outlay. The employment ordinance covers all these benefits for the workers. Like after 3 months, there will be statutory holidays and year-end bonus. After 1 year, there would be annual leave and also severance pay and long service payment after 5 years. Under the employment ordinance, there would be differential treatment allowed. So all these casual workers would enjoy less pay, and they're working for the same job but collect different pay. After the reunification, many government departments have outsourced their work, and they have turned a lot of workers into NCSC staff, and they have to be subject to annual renewal. Some will be on the job for 7 to 8 years, and still NCSC cannot enjoy any protection. In 2009, there was a general household survey. According to that report, in 2009 Q4, there were 176,000 people who were working less than 20 hours per week, compared with the year 2000. Those are working for less than 20 hours per week, the number stood at 87,000. We have seen double the number in 10 years. For the contract workers, it would be difficult to predict or to anticipate the number. In 2000, there were 4,600 NCSC staff in the government. In 10 years later, the number has increased fourfold. Now, these are 418 threshold under the continuous contract of employment. Previously, it was 436. Now it is 418. I mean, this doesn't accord any protection for the workers. Now, the home helpers, they may be working for 8 hours a day, but they're working for different employers. They fall outside the 418 threshold. The other category are the jockey club workers. They work less than 17 hours per week. So it shows that the jockey club is evading the employer's responsibilities. We hope that the government will look at overseas experience. For those who fall below the 418 threshold, they should still be entitled to the benefits on a pro rata basis, like annual leave, severance payment, and long service payment, and so on. There should also be legislation enacted for those who have been working on a contract term for a long time. They can be converted into long-term instead of being stuck with the contract on the long-term basis. Mr. Wai Wei Keung from the Kai Fong Temperate Job Rights Concern Group. Chairman, I think the government should conduct a review regarding turning workers into casual workers. we're not talking about those who fall below the 418 threshold. Some of them may be working more than the 418 threshold, but their rights, the benefits are less than other people. The Labour Department must be aware of that. Under the employment ordinance, everything is tied to the years of service. If you have a shorter length of service, you wouldn't be entitled to less benefits. They would be beyond the control of the workers to determine how long they work. It is entirely in the hands of the employers. The employers can shorten the working hours in such a way that the workers will not enjoy any full protection, and that is a deprivation of the workers' rights. And the situation is getting worse. The situation of workers being turned into casual workers is getting serious. The government should have dealt with this problem a long time ago. In 2009, the former CE, Mr. Donald Tsang, said in his policy address, Mr. Wong quoted that a moment ago, that there would be data collected regarding the situation of workers who work below the 418 threshold. That was 2009. Since this was raised, we didn't get anywhere. In 2011, 2 years on, the government announced, or Labour Department, in fact, and published number 56 report. They've done something, it's as if they haven't done anything at all. But the problem is another 2 years went by. What is the situation? Where do we find ourselves? When number 56 report was published, we went up to the Labour Department together with some academics. We were told that they would have regard to the soon to be published SMW report, and they would be putting together a report which will carry some direction, some way forward, that possibly there would be a review of the employment ordinance. We were told that this would be submitted to the LAB and the Let's Go for discussion. Where are we now? Donald Tsang has stepped down. C.Y. Leung has taken office. Has C.Y. Leung mentioned anything in this regard in his policy address? What worries us is the attitude on the part of the government. Today, we are airing our views. LegCo does have the obligation to monitor the continuity of the government's policy. With a change of government, can the new administration ignore what has been promised in the previous term? Right. Kwai Fong temperate job rights concern with Mr. White. Chairman, thank you. Now we have some and nothing workers who are toiling very hard every single day, and they are not able to lift the family members out of poverty. They can be temporary workers, casual workers, self-employed people, and we have about 350,000 people in this category. They are on pretty low pay, but they're the breadwinners of the family. Now these workers take up 36% of the workforce. Half of the people polled said that the pay is not really steady, but this is not the key thing. The key thing is about 70% of them do not have a steady or stable household income. 60% said that they couldn't make ends meet. And 6% of these people polled said that this would have implications on the family expenditure and the development of the family members, the children, the young people, the development and so on. In the first half of 2012, there were 460,000 poor households. 113,000 of them are elderly, 200,000 of them had one family member who are poor, and 270,000 are jobless singletons. and they take up 43% of the total. According to number 56 report published the year before last, it acknowledged that in Hong Kong we have 150,000 of people who are non-continuous contractor workers. They fall outside of the scope of protection under the EO. The casual workers mean poverty. I hope that the administration will review the statutory minimum wage. There should be a review conducted every single year. The EO should be reviewed for those underprivileged workers who fall below the 418 threshold should be given protection. Social welfare policy should be reviewed to address the poverty issue. Now, will the administration give us any statistics to show whether, as a result of SMW, there is increasing trend to turn workers into casual workers, temporary workers, contract workers, and whether there has been any changes in terms of the statistics. Right, let's move on to Kwai Chung, a State Labour Rights Concern Group.
In reviewing the labour legislation and the definition of continuous contract, the Labour Department may like to make reference with the examples in Europe to look at the situation and in looking at the situation of casual workers. In 1999 and 1997, there were changes. The first one was about protection of workers. It was in 1997. Workers are being protected against discrimination if they are casual workers. And the second change was in 1999. So that employers cannot discriminate against contract workers and to ensure the workers will have steady work. Unless there is sufficient reasons, otherwise employers cannot employ workers on a non-contract basis, on a contract basis. And when contract is renewed, the workers will be permanent workers and will work on long term for the employers. Now the changes in Europe were brought about so that workers will not be discriminated at the workplace, and they were introduced to address the unstable job engagement of workers, which we also see in Hong Kong. Now coming back to Hong Kong, protection for laborers hinges on the length of service. You work longer, you have more protection. 5 years, then you're entitled to long service payment. Work for 2 years, you will get the right to severance payment. And if you work for a year, you get annual leave, and 3 months you have paid annual leave. They should also meet the requirements of 41118 before they can get the benefits and rights. Those determining the hours and the wages of the workers are the bosses, the employers. The employers will control the length of contracts and the working hours, so the workers will not be entitled to their benefits and rights. We have over hundreds of thousands of workers working as casual workers in Hong Kong. And these people are not treated fairly at the workplace. They are not protected. We urge the government to review the definition of continuous contract under the existing ordinance so that those who do not fit the 418 requirements will also be protected. I hope the representatives from the Labour Department can answer me, can tell me what's the government's position in reviewing the definition of continuous contract at present, and what's the progress in that. Next, we have Ms. Wang from Kwai Chung Community Union. 4 years have passed since 2009. The government is using this delaying tactic. They haven't made any review or review the definition of continuous contract. What have you done over the past 4 years? If the employees do not meet the 418 requirements, they are not entitled to the benefits and rights protected under the ordinance, and it's not fair. Their benefits should be protected so that they will be treated fairly. But because they do not meet the 418 requirements, they do not get the benefits they are entitled to. It is unreasonable. They may work for short hours, short duration only, but they work for their wages, so they should be treated equally. 418 requirement must be changed, so the casual workers will not lose their protection and their rights. Apart from that, the 418 requirements also affect other labor policy. Say, for example, the WITS to encourage people to work. There is a limit to the working a requirement about working hours. If they work for 72 hours per month, then they are entitled to $600. Now, the 72 hours in the requirement reflects the 418 requirement. In fact, if they do not work for 72 hours per month, they will get $300. But if they do not work for 36 hours per month, then they are not entitled. They cannot even apply for the scheme. Now, we have many casual workers working as domestic helpers. They may work only several hours per week, and they do not work for 36 hours per month. But still, they have to travel to different places, to other people's homes to work. Fare is very high, way too high for them, and they cannot apply for the scheme. I hope you can remove this requirement of the scheme so the casual workers can apply for the transport allowance. You should also change the definition of the 418 requirements to protect those who are casual workers, so their basic rights as a worker will be protected. Thank you, Ms. Wong. Next, we have from Kuaishing Rights of Temperate Work Job Concern Group, Mr. Lai Chi Po. For our concern group, we think the employment ordinance is there to protect the employees. Is not something for unscrupulous employers to exploit workers. But it's very regrettable that the employers make use of the 418 requirements, so employees lose their rights. In the report number 55, there are 143,000 people working as casual workers. Now, there is one interesting question asking people how many of them think they will work for more than 4 weeks. The number is over 46%. So it seems that the report is pointing out that the 418 requirement is not a problem because those workers who are casual workers will turn into long-term workers sooner or later. But you know the employers control your working hours. For example, someone may work for 4 weeks continuously but do not meet the 18 hours requirement. This is something happening to someone working in the district office in Kuaishing who is paid on a daily basis, and sometimes he works for more than 10 hours per day. And at the end of the 4th week, he can only work for 12 hours in that week. Is it the case that the government can do nothing? No. WITS has been launched and is calculated on a pro rata basis. So how come they cannot do something to protect the 143,000 odd workers? Now, the employers may claim the costs are rising, they have to pay high rents, and they have to pay the minimum wage. Because of that, we can expect the number of casual workers to rise. Now, under these circumstances, how come the government is still dragging its feet? We urge the department to look at this. How many workers are not on a continuous contract? Tell us the distribution in terms of sex or their background, etc. If you still drag your feet, if you still evade the problem, we don't think you are being responsible here. Thank you. Next, we have NWSC New Arrivals Women Groups, a Women Concern Group, Ms. Chen Sheng-man. Good afternoon. I'm here to represent the new arrivals, the women new arrivals. Most of them are grassroots and are working as casual workers. Well, we doubt whether the government shows concern about it. Prices are rising and their wages are falling as a result in real term, and the government has lowered the amount of CSSA, and you have to live in Hong Kong for 7 years before you can get a CSSA instead of 1 year, as in 2004. So most of these new arrival women have to go to work to support their family, and they have to work as casual workers to support themselves, and they are paid very low. And they do not meet the 418 requirements, so they do not get full protection. From statistics in the CSD, 50% of the women are employees. Most of these people are in the sales business, and they are also work in manual workers. For the 100,000 people working, 60% of them are female in 2011 Q2. Women have to take care of their families, and yet they have to work as casual workers just to support their families. In Hong Kong, we rely on women to take care of their children because there is a shortage of caring services. Caring services charge people very high, and grassroots women do not stand to benefit from that. For community nannies, it's not helping them at all. The government is not taking up the responsibility of taking care of the children. So some women who are volunteers have to use the money they get from working as volunteers to support their families. In fact, the government in this way is exploiting these women. So you have to review the definition of continuous contract and amend the employment ordinance. We also urge you to regularize the caring services of children, because women, they cannot make ends meet because they have to take care of their family on one side and have to work on the other. If you do not take care of these, then these women will have a harder life and you have more social problems. Thank you. Next, Mr. Lau Wing-Fai from Kwai Chung Estate Grassroots Right Concern Group. Well, the government has to coordinate different policies for minimum wage that may boost up the number of part-time workers. That's in Korea. In South Korea, in 2011, part-time workers 8.4%, and later in 2011, 13.5%. In Japan, in 1993, 11.9%, and later in boosts up to 16.6%. In Australia, part-time workers in 1979, 16%, and in 2008, 29%. Now, all these are available in the minimum wage report. So this is a good time for you to review the definition of, review the employment ordinance. In 2009, the policy address already stated data about workers not on continuous contract should be collected, and to review the definition of continuous contract. But we're now in 2013. The review is not mentioned at all in the policy address of the current CE. Is it right that you have to wait till after we roll out standard working hours and you see more problems that you are willing to review the definition? You are not keeping up with the trend. And the end without workers will suffer more and more. They will have lots of grievances. So we urge you to review the employment ordinance to protect the end without employees. Can you also give us some analysis of the data to see whether there will be any increase in casual workers, self-employed workers, workers not on continuous contract after you roll out the changes?
Next, Democratic Alliance for the Betterment of Progress of Hong Kong, Mr. An Man Yu. Chairman, in cleansing, catering and security guards, we have seen a lot of casual workers. Many people are being employed on a part-time basis in order to cut costs. There are many seen as more older workers or new arrivals who can't really find long-term jobs, and they have no choice but to engage in casual work, and they are in lack of any knowledge of the law, and they're liable to be subject to exploitation. Now we have these 418 thresholds. Anything below that will not enjoy any statutory holidays, sick leave, LSP loans and severance payments and so on. Many unscrupulous workers are taking advantage of these to exploit the workers. As it was said a moment ago, workers are made to work 17.5 hours per week, and after 3 weeks they will have to take a week off and so on. Now, some employers are docking workers' wages to contribute to the MPF. These older workers, underprivileged workers, will have no option but to put up with the situation. Because of the temporary nature of these casual work, the workers do not understand the benefits. Maybe there is no insurance taken out for them. Maybe there is no protection for work injuries and so on. The workers simply don't really know about it. There are more and more casual workers that they should be entitled to benefits. As whether they enjoy the same full benefits or whether they should enjoy pro rata benefits, there should be benefits after all for these casual workers. We hope that this will be discussed at LAB and improvement can be effected with consensus. The DAB urges the administration to review the 418 threshold to make sure the casual workers will enjoy the benefits that they should be entitled to. The government should step up patrol and law enforcement so that the workers' benefits can be implemented. Thank you, Mr. An. All right, next, Mr. Low from the Hong Kong Federation of Trade Union Rights and Benefits Committee. Chairman, the 418 threshold is the minimum requirement as to whether someone will get the benefits, but Hong Kong's economic structure has changed. There has been diversification of jobs. there are unscrupulous employers who resort to a wide variety of ways to end the 418 contract of employment. 418 threshold cannot effectively protect the workers. It is an opportune time for us to review the employment ordinance. The FTU submitted the Manpower panel in 2011 a proposal to improve the situation. For those who are non-continuous contract workers, they are making positive contribution to Hong Kong. They should be entitled to protection. The Rights and Benefits Committee would like to reiterate 3 points. First of all, under the employment ordinance, there should be protection for those who are non-continuous contract workers. In Singapore, back in the 1990s, middle part of, they have stipulate 30 hours of work per week, and they should be entitled to the same benefits as full-time workers, like rest day, benefits, maternity leave, and annual leave, and so on. The protection, the rights are well protected. Under the existing ordinance, the workers do not enjoy an annual leave, LSP, SP, and so on. The Rights and Benefits Committee would like the government to take a leaf out of the book of other jurisdictions and review the 418 threshold and the benefits for these workers so that they can safeguard their own rights. For those non-continuous contract workers, their benefits should be calculated on a pro rata basis. In Singapore, for instance, the part-time works will have these worked out on the basis of hours of work, and that way the workers' rights will be protected. In the U.S., each worker should be entitled to certain benefits on a pro rata basis. Part-time workers will still get the protection. Finally, we urge the administration to come up with standard working hours so that the 418 requirement can be implemented smoothly. In these jurisdictions, they have the legislation to offer pro rata benefits to the part-time workers. When the government formulates protection, it should have regard to the proposals of the International Labour Organization. If I may put a question to the Labour Department regarding 418 situation, are they aware of the situation, and are they patrolling, making their rounds? Right, next we move on to the catering hotels industry employees and general union. Chairman, back in June, we conducted a poll in order to ascertain the situation regarding the room workers. Now, a lot of them are working on a part-time basis. Now, half of the hotel employers would dictate that workers work for 3 weeks and then take a week off in order to evade their responsibilities under the contract of employment, continuous contract of employment. So under these circumstances, the hotel room workers do not enjoy much of a protection. They don't get annual leave, PW, the type of renewal, LSP and SP, the benefits are worse than the full-time workers. Their hourly pay is $32.50 only. For the full-time workers, they're making $37.2. They're making 10%, 12% less than the full-time counterpart. The situation is getting ever serious, since there are so many part-time and casual workers in the hotel industry, and the pay is so bad that many people are not happy to stay in this trade. And there is a very horrendous wastage rate there. What infuriates us is that the unions have been liaising with the hoteliers, hoping that we can work something out with the hotels association. We have called press conferences, and we've got in touch with the hotels Owners Association, we drew a blank there. Unless the administration is going to do something about a 418 requirement, unless they go down the legislative route, it would be difficult for us to take it up with the employers. So the administration should face up to this squarely. Now these hotel groups, they're making tremendous amounts of money, and they're still resorting to these means to evade their responsibilities under the employment ordinance. The administration should review the employment ordinance in relation to continuous contract of employment. The benefits for the workers should be, or part-time workers in fact, should be worked out on a pro rata basis. We should stop this artificial break kind of arrangement to avoid any continuous contract of employment. Right, next, Ms. Lo Pui Shan, Hong Kong Catholic Commission for Labour Affairs. Chairman, this issue has been raised on many occasions. According to the background information, back in 2005, this panel did discuss as to how part-time workers can be protected. In 2008, the government suggested that the definition of 418 definition would be reviewed. I get a feeling that they have commissioned the census and statistics to gather the information. So many years on, we're still sitting here talking about this very, very same issue. The government is drawing no conclusion as a result of the review, nor have they put forward any proposals for reviewing the 418 requirement. This is utterly disappointing. According to the administration, they are responding to our aspirations using the paper dated November 2011. I'd like to put this to the administration. Do you have any plan to review the 418 threshold? How soon are you going to consult us regarding your proposal? The government is not doing anything at all, and the government is trying to play down the problem. According to government paper, it is a personal choice to engage in part-time work, and they anticipate that they will continue to work. Some will be working continuously for 4 weeks and going forward, and they will be entitled to protection under the law. Now, it was also said that some workers may not be working for 4 weeks, and this is because of the trade situation, like construction trade and so on. For these short-term and non-continuous contract workers, they may not be entitled to protection, but according to census and statistics, many employers are offering benefits for them in excess of what is required under the law. It seems to me that the situation is not serious at all. It seems to me that the government is taking the lead in this regard. It was said that the work incentive and travel scheme, it was said that there was a threshold of 72 hours per week. Subsequently, because of the objection, they lower it to 36 hours in order to get $300. What about those working below 36 hours? We said a moment ago that as a result of the SMW, there would be more and more people who will be turned into casual workers. The government has to face up to these problems squarely and review the 418 requirement to consult the members of the public with on their proposal. Right, Hong Kong Women Workers Association is Cheuk-yan. Chairman, thank you. On behalf of the grassroots workers and women, I'd like to put this to the Labour Department. Now, this continuous contract of requirement, it is discriminating the casual workers, and they are creating all this unfair situation between the part-time workers and the full-time workers. There are 3 major problems here. First, this is discriminating against the middle-aged workers. There are 230,000 casual workers. 70% of them are women, of whom 70% are married women. Now, it was said, why is it that they choose casual work? It was said that they have to look after the families, and they have to look after the kids and the elderly members. Now, these middle-aged women are homemakers. and they are also one of the breadwinners in the families. Now, there is a lack of child care services. Many women have to look after the families. They have to support the families financially, and they have no option but engage in work that offers them no protection. Now, this is really bad for women. This 418 requirement means that many casual workers don't enjoy any protection under the law. Now, the situation for casual workers, like some promoters for supermarket chains, they've been working for 5 years or 10 years or more. Each month they work at least 15 days for 7 to 8 hours per day. But all these 10 years they did not enjoy any protection at all, because there are agents who would be hiring the promoters, that they may be working for the same company for 10 years. But they are in fact working for different agents under these companies, and they do not measure up to the statutory requirements, and they are not entitled to SP, LSP, and the annual leave and so on. Now, this 418 requirement is condoning the employers to evade the responsibility. According to number 15.5 report of the Labour Department, it is personal choice to engage in casual work. There is no attempt to face up to this exploitation by the employers and to evade the responsibilities. There are so many ways to evade the 418 requirement. After 3 weeks, there would be a suspension of 1 week, or there can be a reduction in the number of days, or they work for 17.5 hours a week. Now, this 418 requirement shows the employers how they can evade the responsibilities. So the government has to review this arrangement and offer the protection to the casual workers on a pro rata basis.
Next, Manpower's concerned group, Mr. Wong Kwai Sing. Good afternoon. My colleague died 6 months ago. I would like to commemorate him. Labour Department, please check whether there are the records that he died during working hours. We do not know what happened because the employer did not reveal the situation to us. The Labour Department said that there are no diseases to workers related to work, but I've been seeing a doctor because of work-related diseases for 4 years. So please check whether the 2 workers who died last year were reported to you. I worked in the jockey club. You see from my badge, I've been working for 120 hours and I'm a part-time worker. I should have earned over $10,000 after the minimum wage. I work for 120 hours, but I only earn $9,000 odd. We are sacrificed as casual workers. If I continue like this, I will really die. On the 5th of March, nobody worked, and I asked them to call the delay system. But I was told the system did not work. Does it mean that I had to work for 9 hours continuously? How would I survive if that's the case? The hospital authority transferred me to a unit in Hong Kong U to do for some research because of my health situation. I have to stand out, even though my health is not good. It's hard for you to attract new blood. The over 100 casual workers have to work for long hours every day. Some work start working at 7, some 9, some 11. Despite my ill health, I still have to continue. I don't know how long I can continue like this. I really can't bear it. Now, you propose these review on the definition. I'm glad to hear it. Let me tell you about the company situation. Some workers are barred from work. At the end of January, people are barred from work. They cannot work for over 150 hours. And at the end of the month, the contract workers have to we have to work for long hours. And at the end of the month, we have more and more workload. How can I continue like this? Thank you, Mr. Wong. Next, we have Madam Xie from Hong Kong Domestic Workers General Union. Now, domestic workers are casual workers and part-time workers. As members know, we do not work for 18 hours for one employer per week. But even if we do so, we are not on continuous contract. Most of us are grassroots women. We do not meet the 418 requirements, even though we perform the same jobs. We are not covered under the MPF, and we are not covered by the minimum wage. Chinese people said you have to save, you have to take care of your family. Our children are very good, but with their low wages, they can only make ends meet themselves. We have to pay high rents and high electricity bills, water bills. We do not get pay when we get sick and do not work. We can hardly make ends meet. We do not have savings. We only have illnesses. Still, we choose to contribute. We choose to work. We are workers, but we are not on continuous contract, so we do not get full protection. Hong Kong is an international city. You call yourselves an international financial hub, but for grassroots women, we do not get protection. We urge you to give protection to these workers and remove the 418 threshold. Thank you. Next, Ms. Ng Wai Ling from Labour Party. Good afternoon, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. Under 418 requirements, the casual workers, part-time workers do not get anything. In 1995, the UK already saw that this is not in line with equal pay, equal working hours as in Europe, so they remove it in the UK, but we're still in the discussion stage. In Hong Kong, in Chinese restaurants, when they work for 18 months, then the workers are asked to leave the work and for 2 months, and then we're employed. The ordinance should provide protection to employers and employees, but for 18, I don't see how it can protect the workers. In fact, it discriminates against workers, especially women who are mostly part-time workers. Let me give you an example. I'm from a school. I work in a school, and there are many casual workers. Many years ago, for these casual workers, after they've worked for a year, in fact, they have been working there for a year, they start working from 5 to 9. And one day, it was found that they already meet the 418 requirement. And then their working hours were shortened by 30 minutes per day. It's sad. A principal do not have to look at the accounts because the school is funded by government, and he employs moral high ground. But once he knows the workers meet the 418 requirements, he immediately shortened their working hours. The casual workers do not have any room or any chips to bargain with them. You may say they choose to be casual workers. How can you say so? They do not know what it means by that. If they know, they would not have chosen so. It all is decided by the employers. Why do you still keep 418? There's a shortage of manpower, and casual workers hardly have time to do all the work. They have to go to work earlier than the official hours, and the principal says You can go earlier to work, but I only ask you to come to work for 3.5 hours. It's happening in the education sector, so you can imagine what's happening in the commercial sector. Why are we still discussing it? You should remove it, in fact. The workers cannot say no to that, and we're still discussing everything on and on. And the workers can only take what they're offered. So the Labour Party thinks is it all outdated, and you should remove the requirement immediately. Thank you. Then we have Mr. Ko Chun-kit from the Federation of Hong Kong and Kowloon Labour Unions. Thank you. I would like to share some examples in community to show you that, in fact, the protection offered is not exactly satisfactory. There is Madam Hui. She is working as a cleaner in the company. Every day she works from 9 to 6, and she works like any office workers. But the employer is being cunning. The Madam Hui works for 3 weeks and then asked to leave for 1 week. The cleaner knows she's exploited, but she wants to keep the job, so she simply took things meekly. One day she was dismissed and she did not get any compensation, so she came to us. It was found that she lost 10 years of continuous working time, and her right has been taken away, and 100 paid annual leaves were taken away from her. Under existing ordinance, there's only so much we can do for her. I'm sure these are not recorded by the Labour Department and the CNSD. In your report, you say that the problems of casual workers, part-time workers, not serious, and they are not protected under the employment ordinance, but their employers took the initiative to protect them. Now, these are rights and benefits to workers. They should not be left to the employers to decide whether they should be given that. We see lots of changes in the labor market, meaning we see a rise of casual and part-time workers. In Europe, many legislations have been changed to protect these workers. How come in Hong Kong we cannot do that? We urge the government to do 3 things. First, set a timetable to review the definition of continuous contract under employment ordinance and to review removing 418 requirements. Secondly, review or plug the loopholes in the EO to protect the casual workers and part-time workers. For workers who are exploited by unscrupulous employers whose working hours have been cut, you should look at it so that these workers will be entitled to annual leaves and other protection. Next, we have from Democratic Party, Mr. Lee. Well, it's regrettable we do not have any representatives from the commercial sector. Is it because they're afraid of the workers? We ask for clear legislation to see how we can protect the workers under the employment ordinance. Now, you can ask any workers down the road what it means by 418. I don't know many of them can tell you. I go to the hourly paid 28 hours, work from 6:30 to 6:30 and 6 hours per day. This is one of the adverts in the Labour Department and is an advertisement by Maxim Group. Now, can ask any worker if he knows he is entitled to the annual leaves and paid leaves. I don't think any workers can tell you that he understands that he is entitled to that. And some employers, they may breach the law and they do without even knowing it. Now, of course, we leave it to the employers to see how the situation can be remedied. Jockey Club takes the lead in not observing 418. You should follow it up. From the Labour Department website, you say you will the 418 should be enforced, but I don't see any legislation about that. Jockey Club made a mistake in understanding 418, and they then counter-propose some other requirements. In fact, these workers are doing the same thing as other workers on on continuous contracts, but they are not entitled to sick leaves, no severance, no long service payment, no annual leaves. In Ireland, if you work for a certain time within a certain period, then the worker will be entitled to certain number of annual leaves and benefits on a pro rata basis. To remove 418 may take a long time. We hope we can remove it immediately, but I think there will be difficulties. But some companies are making use of the loopholes under 418. Can the government introduce legislation to regulate working hours to protect the workers? This is not to add burden to the employers. We're just asking them to take up their responsibility. Next, Miss Fanny Leung from Civic Party. Good afternoon, everyone. To have a harmonious government community, we have to first have fairness and equality. So you have to remove discrimination. We urge the government to set down a set of comprehensive employment ordinance to remove discrimination, especially discrimination against women. We want to promote equality in Hong Kong. As a result, continuous contract means you work for the same employer for 4 weeks or more and for more than 18 hours per week. In this case, you are entitled to the rights and benefits under EO. Part-time workers and casual workers are not protected under EO because they do not meet the 418 requirements. Say, for example, people working at school and hotels and domestic helpers, they are not entitled to that. These are examples to show that unscrupulous employers exploiting these workers. They're taking away their rights and benefits. According to the statistics by CNSD, in 2009, from October to December, they carried out a survey, and 56,000 odd workers, part-time workers, they work for less than 18 hours per week. Over 75% are women. Most of them have to take care of their families, frail elderly family members, their children, to do the chores. That's why they do not take up jobs on continuous contract. So they are in the catering industry, in the hotel industry. For these 56,000 workers, they are not entitled to protection under the EO. So we urge you to remove 418 requirements and to set down policies to protect the casual and part-time workers. Now, many jurisdictions agree that these workers are contributing to community. For example, in Singapore, by these workers, they mean people who work for less than 30 hours. These people are protected under the law. How come Hong Kong cannot do that? How come the Labour Department is still dragging its feet? These part-time and casual workers must be protected under international laws. These workers should be protected. Their health should be protected. So we urge the government to promote equality and review 418 so that we can protect these workers. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Miss Leung. I'd like the administration to respond to the following: the review of 418, the timetable, the details. There are more part-time workers as a result of the 418 requirement, and also the what I call the moratorium, and also government outsourcing. The deputations focus their attention on these 4 areas. Mr. Hui, you're welcome to add to what I said. Mr. Hui, Assistant Commissioner. Thank you, Chairman. I'm glad to hear so many views regarding the 418 requirement. As Chairman said at the very beginning, by the middle part of this year, we will be coming back to the Manpower panel on the issue of the review. We will be bringing the panel up to date by then. Now, we, together with the study on the continuous contract of employment, we will come back to the panel after consulting the LAB. We'll bring members up to date on the findings of the study, and we'll come back with the views of the LAB. It was said earlier on that a study was conducted in 2009. The government said that it would gather information on part-time workers and also workers with short working hours. Now let me brief members on the findings of the study. The 148,300 workers do not fall within the 418 threshold. 51.8% are males, 48.2% are female. So the ratio is half and half according to the findings. Of these 148,300 workers, 50,200 at the time of enumeration did not work up to the 4-week arrangement. They may be working for 18 hours per week, but they fall below 4 weeks. But they anticipated they would be in compliance, because in the labor market it is very fluid, very flexible. People are in and out of jobs. There are some people who just got a job and they haven't fulfilled the 4-week arrangement at the time of enumeration. So these 50,200 are expected to fulfill the 418 requirement. And 98,000 employees were engaged under the continuous employment. 63,000 failed to fulfill this requirement. This is the distribution of the workers. We have conducted some analysis as a result. At the time LAB discusses this matter, we will furnish it with the information. And also in Hong Kong, is there any room for adjustment regarding this 418 requirement? All these will be referred to the LAB for the information. Now this is in relation to the progress and the timetable for the review. Second, statutory minimum wage and the impact. According to Census and Statistics Department, they have the annual survey before the SMW, the 2011 report. 7% were part-time workers, temporary workers 3%. I must clarify that part-time work doesn't mean those are working below 18 hours. That they have less than 5 days as the definition for part-time work, or 30 hours or less than 30 hours per week, and that would be regarded as part-time. So these 7% of the workers who are considered part-time, some of them fulfill the 418 requirement. Now that was 2011. Last year, 2012, that's after the SMW, the percentage remains pretty much the same, 7% part-time work, temporary workers 3%. So from these statistics, we get to see that as a result of SMW, the number of casual workers or part-time workers has not changed substantially. Some deputation also made the point about the protection to be offered to the non-contract workers. When it comes to law enforcement, we don't really make any distinction between part-time or full-time workers or long-term or short-term workers. I mean, we are somewhat different from overseas jurisdictions where they do have different treatments for full-time and part-time workers. In Hong Kong, under the employment ordinance, the only requirement is for 18 threshold. We don't make any distinction between full-time and part-time workers in terms of our treatment. So when the labor inspector make their rounds, and they would be looking at the situation, we don't make any difference between 418 or non-418 workers. As long as they fulfill the requirement, they would be entitled to the benefits. I must stress that this 418 requirement doesn't mean that if someone falls short of this 418 threshold, there would be no protection. The EO does offer certain protection, like the wages, the deduction of wages, for instance. If the employer unlawfully docks the wages or fails to pay the wages, they would be liable to prosecution if they are found. Right. What about government outsourcing, the moratorium? Yes. Chairman, thank you. The so-called moratorium, this is also part of the review, less than 18 hours or less than 4 weeks of work. In our review, we will have a look at the legislation and how, if amendments were to be made, how this should be improved. Outsourced workers, we don't have any particular statistics about their situation as to whether they fulfill the 418 requirements. The Census and Statistics report should adequately reflect the situation, but we have to bear in mind that on this issue of 418 requirements, members mentioned some large corporations. In fact, for part-time and casual workers, I mean, sometimes it's not just the large corporations that hire casual or part-time workers. Sometimes it is the small-time employers who are also hiring part-time or casual workers. So we have to look at the implications not just on the large conglomerates, but also the small-time businesses. Right, there was a mention of the less than 18 hours. The community organizers are hired by the district officers. All right, I throw the floor open. We have 2 public hearings. Time is rather tight now, so I allow 4 minutes each for each member. And probably I have to extend the meeting by 15 minutes. We should be here until 6:45 at least. Wang Kwok-heng, Tang Ka-pyo, Kwok Ka-ki, Pun Siu-ping, Leung Kwok-hong, Kwok Wai-kiang. Leung Yu-zhong. Mr. Wang Kwok-heng, please. Chairman, thank you. Grateful to the deputations for their attendance. I fully subscribe to their views. Chairman, with regard to 418 workers, I mean, a lot of them are and nothing workers. They don't have an rest day. They don't have statutory holidays, no annual leave, sickness allowance, LSP, severance payment. They've got all these benefits that are not accrual to them, not to mention the lack of any promotion prospects. These are and-nothing workers. To address this particular problem, the crux of the matter lies with the fact that the benefits should be payable to them on a pro rata basis. All these benefits under the EO should be paid on a pro rata basis, and that's the answer to the problem. We don't need all these reviews. All we need to do is to just offer them the benefits on a pro rata basis. So my question is, what is the government's attitude? The government should be taking the lead. The LAB is chaired by a government official. I think that the government's attitude would make a world of difference. What is the government's attitude? Are you going to condone exploitation of these and-nothing workers continuously? Second, the government has to take the lead also. The government is the largest employer in Hong Kong. There are NCSC staff. The number stands at more than 10,000. Now, I think you know what I'm talking about regarding these outsourced workers. Over the past years, the government has resorted to agents to provide the labor service, and they're so unscrupulous. Like, for instance, on such and such a day, you need X number of people for a certain assignment, and all you need to do is just to turn up for the jobs, and the government doesn't have to bear the employment benefits, and they would be completely free from these liabilities. It would be for the agents to take up the responsibilities, and these agents would be hiring these and-nothing workers because they are on call for these jobs. Why doesn't the government hire these people on a long-term basis? Why doesn't the government choose not to use these agents? Can the government hire these people on a longer-term basis? Now, if the government is going to do so, there will be a lot of enterprises, the NGOs and so on, who will be following suit, and they will be following the government's example, because if the government were to set a bad example, they would follow suit. MTRC is a case in point. To save some time for you to address my questions. Mr. Hui. Chairman, on the first question, in our review, we will be looking at other jurisdictions or whether there are any pro rata disbursement of benefits. There were some deputations mentioned, for instance, Singapore. They do offer pro rata benefits for the workers, but they have to fulfill the 35 hours per week threshold. Only then will they be entitled to the full benefits. Anything below 35, it would be on a pro rata basis. Now, they have the 44 hours per week requirement. In Hong Kong, any worker working up to 18 hours per week would be getting full benefits under the employment ordinance. But in Singapore, for instance, if they work for 18 hours, on a pro rata basis, they won't even get half as much as what they should be getting. So I think that these can be addressed during the review.
As for the agents hired by the government, I think that can be addressed by the Public Works Subcommittee. Mr. Tang, in the paper you mentioned in 2012 that the LAB would be consulted, but I asked members from LAB that you haven't discussed it actually. We're now in 2013. I don't know if you are going to evade it. in short, you haven't discussed all these matters with the LAB. You haven't done any assessment. Now, for tourist guide, they do not meet the 418 requirements. MTR and Jockey Club, they do not follow 418. Have you got any data to show the abuse or the breach of 418? Next, about monitoring system. What is happening within the administration itself? Next, publicity. The employer may say to the workers, because you are a part-time worker, you do not have you're not covered by insurance, you do not have MPF. It is all because of the fussiness of 418. And these are happening in the community. So, LD, I urge you to first conduct an assessment and to see how many agents are hired and how many casual part-time workers are employed and who are exploited under 418. Next, for the advertisements in LD, can you make it clear which are under 418, which are not? Can you do these two? Thank you, Chair. For the data, you can see whether the 418 is complied with. You can also see the weekly working hours there in the data. And after this meeting, these matters will be discussed at LAB meetings. For part-time and casual workers, how we can promote messages about these two kind of workers. Yes, we're doing it. Not just to explain what it means by casual workers, where these workers may be entitled to full protection. We have a booklet in Chinese, English, and other languages of ethnic minorities too, to explain what it means by part-time workers. And this January, we have new posters at district offices and Labor Department to disseminate information about casual workers. Of course, you get detailed information on our website. For the review, we do not simply look at what's happening within the administration. If we go ahead with review, that will cover the entire labor market. So we do not simply focus on the situation within the administration. You still have 30 seconds. You haven't answered my question. If you can do the two things I asked you to first, the vacancy post, can you make it clear which are 418, which do not meet 418 requirements? And can you conduct an assessment within the government for the vacancies on that advertisement card? We have to put in lots of information. For example, the requirements. Now, we can pass Mr. Tang's suggestion to the relevant parties. But we have to strike a balance here. Lots of information have to be included. Does it mean that you undertake care to do that? We will pass the message to colleagues responsible for that to see whether it's feasible. Next, Dr. K.K. Kwok. First of all, thank you to all the deputations for coming here. Administration's reply is really disappointing. You conducted this survey, and in the paper, Paris 16, you mentioned that for all these workers, 20% entitled to statutory holidays and 4.4% entitled to end-of-year payment. Now, they should enjoy the fruit of our economic growth. You put it on paper, it means that you agree that that's the way to go forward. We're very angry because most of these workers work in statutory bodies like Jockey Club. Jockey Club is monopolizing the gambling market. They maximize their profits, especially they take profits from grassroots. Another company is MTR. Your own departments like LCSD outsource work and these employers make use of the loopholes under 418. In the fourth week out of the 4 weeks, the workers are asked not to work up to 18 hours. If you are not committed to reviewing 418, you are wasting our time here. Hong Kong calls itself an Asian world city. Workers over 40 who do not have high education level, they cannot bargain in the market. They are worse positioned. They are exploited to the full under 418 requirements. You do not even do things right in the administration. You just evade the matter. You leave things to the agents, to a jockey club, to MTRC. And you are delaying the matter, saying you have to consult different parties. You started this tactic in 2009. We're now in 2013. You have to face up to all the deputations here. How long are you going to delay it? When can you make things right in statutory bodies so they will not exploit the grassroots workers? Yes, administration. After the review, the matter will be discussed at LAB. We have lots of questions from members and deputations, and we understand that you have a timetable already. But in terms of direction, is it right that you are committed to solve all these problems? Can you tell us if it's a direction? Because deputations come here, they want to know whether you are committed to the changes. Can you give us a specific reply? When the matter is discussed at the LAB, we'll pass on the result of the survey. When it comes to matters to promote the interests of workers, we have to strike a consensus at LAB before we can roll out any changes or amendments. This is the established procedures. Well, so it means they do not have any position. I'm asking you the situation in statutory bodies. Are you going to make things right there? For statutory bodies, the LD cannot manage them. I can pass on the message to the relevant policy bureau. Next, thank you, deputations, for coming. In fact, we have been fighting for all these, including the changes of 418. The LD said the result of the review will be passed on to LAB for discussion. Can you tell us about the arrangement of the LAB? Is it right that the item will be on the agenda at the next meeting? In 2000, when we proposed to roll out minimum wage, the item was on the agenda of LAB. We urged the 418 and 436, they have been in place for over 40 years, but they do not provide full protection to casual and part-time workers. Now, of course, you have to gain consensus in LAB, but the government definitely has a position. You should go forward with it. Maybe the three representatives cannot reply on behalf of the Policy Bureau. But you understand from deputations and members that we want you to take things to the next step. So I would like to have a timetable. And next, tell us about the direction concerning a review of the requirement. For workers who have been working for 10 odd years and over 18 hours per week, but not continuously, is there anything you can support these workers? And do you have a lot of such cases at hand? Well, they are here and they represent the LWB. So please reply on behalf of LWB. Is there any plan to amend the ordinance? After we take on board your views, the matter will be discussed at LAB, and in the middle of this year, we'll come back to this panel to report the result of the review. So in the middle of this year, members will be notified about our direction concerning the review and the views of LAB members. The second question, reply to that is, I defer to my colleague. For those cases, if union members have such cases, we welcome you to pass them on. I remember in 2011 at this panel, we discussed this matter, and there were some cases came to us at the meeting, and after that, we followed up on them immediately. And there was this organization where 418 is not covered in the contract. And we then immediately try to understand the matter from that organization. And the situation was remedied immediately. But it was because they were outdated in terms of the understanding. So if we see there are such cases, we will definitely follow them up. Nowadays, employers are complaining that it's hard for them to hire people. So we hope they can adopt a more positive attitude concerning the 418. Now, for the catering industry, you understand that most workers are asked to stop for 1 week after working for 3 weeks. Now, it affects almost the entire hotel industry. Can you take this up? Mr. Lang Kwok Hong. You take away collective bargaining power and the other relevant ordinance. Have you consulted the LAB? If so, did you get any support there? You just take a step back, and every time you take a step back, did you consult the LAB? Did you? The largest employer, the government, have you consulted the LAB? Have you consulted the employees' representatives? And secondly, how come you have not appointed me on LAB? I'm employing 9 people. So should I represent, well, in that case, should I represent the employers? Matthew Cheung is not here. I would like to ask him, is it the LASHCO or the Bureau who is monitoring the LAB? You are shameless. Are you governing Hong Kong under the law? And is Premier Xi Jinping doing the same? Which ordinance, which law states that you have to get a consensus in LAB before you roll anything? This is my first question. Secondly, CY Leung says there's no minor matters when it comes to livelihood. I think the CE lies. We're asking for improvements. People who are casual workers, they are willing to take up casual work. It shows that they can hardly make ends meet. Wong Kwok Heng is stupid, so he takes you for your words. If you go by common law, You should offer level playing field. So you should offer more to the grassroots before they can actually move up the social ladder. For the outsourced workers, they are there because you condone that practice. Offer a level playing field to these workers.
問你啊，
Let me put this to you. Why didn't you think of that? For those working less than a week, can they benefit from the hours of work they have put in? I think you have to spare a thought for those who are suffering from the pain. Are you with me? You have to sort it out. You will be presenting a report to us. What measures are you going to present us with? For those who don't get any benefits under the existing law, how are you going to make sure that they will be able to get the benefits? Nothing is trivial, according to C.Y. Leung. What directives are given by the CE or Matthew Cheung? Is it that for those who are victimized by the 418 requirement, they will be able to enjoy the benefits? Were there any directives? Please make it quick, please. Mr. Hui. Chairman, as I said a moment ago, we do have a comprehensive review, and we will be coming back to the panel after consulting the LAB. What is Matthew Cheung doing? He should pack it in. It's totally useless. Mr. Kwok Wai-keung. Chairman, thank you. Under the existing employment ordinance, the provisions have been there for 20, 30 years. In old days, when labor supply was tight, the workers are working overtime and would be treated with barbecue pork rice. I mean, this has not been done for well over a decade now. In recent years, people are putting in overtime without any recompense. The situation is getting ever serious. It goes to show that the economic situation has changed. Our society has been changing dramatically, and the Labor Department is not making any changes in response to the societal changes, and you're stuck with this piece of legislation which has been around for 20, 30 years. Are you minded to safeguard the interests of the workers? For the part-timers, they don't get any protection at all. All of us here feel that the part-time workers, despite their part-time capacity, should be getting protection. The Labor Department has been dragging its feet for so long. They talked about coming up with some solutions. The employers are different from those in the old days. Employers treated workers nicely in the old days. These days, employers treat the workers in a very nasty way. Now, they can be 18-month contract. They can be an artificial break throughout their work. And you're aware of these situations and you're not making any changes in response. Why can't you make it snappy? Why do you have to make the workers wait for so long? Now, you mentioned some studies. For those workers who fall below the 418 threshold, 20% get statutory holiday or paid holiday. How many of them do not enjoy anything at all? I would imagine the vast bulk of them, 70%, 80%, are getting virtually nothing. Do you have any statistics of those who fall below the 418 threshold, who are getting absolutely nothing at all in terms of benefits? Secondly, now you said that you will present the EC to the LAB. Are you going to present any proposals, or are you just going there and listening to what they have to say? Now, this is an executive-led system. I am sure that you must have formulated something for discussion by LAB, and this is the way to go. I leave you some time for a reply. Mr. Hui, please. Chairman, thank you. The employment ordinance has been around for a few decades. In fact, we move on with times. As you can see, just last year, in terms of statutory holiday, we've changed the substitute holiday for the first day of Lunar New Year, the paternity leave. We have come and told members that we will go down the legislative path regarding paternity leave. This year, there is going to be the legislative amendment regarding reinstatement of work. Now, from time to time, we are making changes to the legislation to keep up with the times. There was a question as to whether the census and statistics has any figures regarding those who fall below the 418 threshold. In fact, the census and statistics show what workers get what benefits. We don't have the figures that you sought. Mr. Leung Yu-chong, well, Chairman, I think what Mr. Hui said amounts to a non-answer. You said there would be a review, but how are you going to conduct a review? We drew a blank. We have so many deputations who referred to the plight of the workers who fall below the 418 threshold. You don't really have any empathetic attitude at all. Now, for these workers, what is the government's attitude? You're merely repeating the census and statistics report between 06 and 09. Why'd you bother doing so? Is the situation serious in your opinion? Or is the situation going to get worse, as alluded to by the deputations? What is the stance of the government? What is your take in this regard? And can you tell us, please, given all these problems highlighted, there is more or less the same ratio between male and female, and the situation applies to all these various kinds of jobs. Now, for these part-time workers, do they get any protection at all? Tell us categorically whether they enjoy any protection. So my question is very straightforward. What is the government's stance regarding the part-time workers, those who fall below the 418 threshold? Is the situation serious, or is the situation going to get any worse? Also, for these workers, do they enjoy any statutory protection? If not, how is the government going to help them? Mr. Hui, serious? Now, the 418 situation, I think the figures speak for themselves. 9Q4, there were statistics to show that those who fall below 418, 148,000, deducting the 50,000 who may be changing jobs. They do not get protection for the time being. We have 98,000, and they, you are really wasting my time. You're reading out the figures for me. Are you? What is your opinion regarding the situation? Is it serious? Is it serious? Is it going to get worse? Are you going to do something about it? 3 questions. Mr. Hui. Chairman, as I said, for those who fall below the 418 threshold, the number stands at 98,000, and they take up, well, answer my question, please. They take up 3% of the workforce. Is the situation going to get worse? In answer to one of the speakers, prior to SMW and after SMW, for those part-time workers and casual workers, the percentage remains pretty much the same. We haven't seen any change proportionally. Mr. Leung, is the problem of part-time workers serious? 148,000, no, 98,000. Part-time workers, 58,000. Part-time workers, 98,000. That's 3%. Is it serious? I mean, it's not for me to say whether it is serious or not. Now, the review is, the review on the continuous contract arrangement will be conducted at the LAB. Mr. Leung, if it is not serious, why do you have to conduct a review? Well, I'm not saying whether it is serious or not. The review will be focusing on these 3% of the workers. Will you offer them any protection? Will you do something about the situation? That's of concern to Mr. Leung. Chairman, we will bring the review findings to the LAB. After discussion, we'll come back here to the panel. What review are you going to conduct? Are you going to review the protection for these workers? What review? What is the review entail? Well, the review is about the continuous contract of employment and the protection. All right, everybody can see that we can't get blood out of stone. I mean, it is abundantly clear today that all deputations and all members who spoke, none of us said that the workers who fall below 418 threshold should not be protected. Every single one who spoke here, every deputation that spoke today would very much like to have an amendment bill to offer some protection to those who work below 18 hours per week, and also for those who get a break after 3 weeks of work or after 18 months of work. Their length of service is interrupted after a certain period of time. Mr. Hui, I'm sure the message has got across to you. Now, the only thing that is slightly optimistic is that what you suggested has been done, like paternity leave and the protection of the trade unions and so on. I don't think you should raise my expectation only to have it dashed when you come back in June. I think it is abundantly clear that we do pin very high hope on this review, which we hope that there will be legislative amendments. And this is something that is clearly the expectation of the Manpower panel. I'm sure that this has got across loud and clear to Mr. Hui. By the time you come back by June, I'm sure that this is the middle part of the year. By the time you come back in June, we look forward to hearing some concrete proposals regarding legislative amendments. I don't think I need to invite Mr. Hui to repeat what he had to say. I think this is a fair summation of what we have discussed. When you come back in June, we look forward to some concrete legislative proposals. My thanks to all the deputations for being with us, and also the government representatives. The officials will stay on for the next item in relation to the protection for participating in trade unions. We invite the next batch of deputations in, please. Perhaps this is a good idea to take a break for 3 minutes at this point. Mr. Hui, you're free to take a break. Thank you.